Will Anderson was the 2023 Defensive Rookie of the Year. He had more sacks than J.J. Watt did in his rookie year. He had more quarterback hits than J.J. did in his rookie year. Now, J.J. was playing on the inside, but that's neither here nor there. And we'll hear a little bit from J.J. Watt later on. But if you're a fan of Will Anderson, which I know most of the viewers of this channel tend to be, there's something to get really excited about with Will Anderson, and it's this. That Will Anderson was and still is very raw as a pass rusher, as an NFL pass rusher. He was brilliant in college for everything that Alabama asked him to do, but they were not doing what the Texans are asking him to do, which is to be a rush defensive end, pin your ears back, get up and go. And there's some things that he needs to learn because he's relatively late to the process and making that transition. When Sean Pendergast and I had Nick Caserio on Payne and Pendergast on Sports Radio 610 the other week, Nick talked about just how raw Will was in some respects last year.
Pass rush is an art, and it's about technique.
Well, yeah, and you can see, because Will played like in a lot of 4-eye and 5 techniques.
He looked like a frog in a stance sometimes.
In college, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, because that's what they had to read and react and everything. Did he look like a frog? It's not an insult. It's that's a classic read and react stance where you're waiting to see what the offensive lineman is doing and going with him as opposed to you setting the tone and tempo, which is what in D'Amico's wide 9 defense where he lines up cocked outside the offensive tackler, cocked outside the tight end, and a lot of the time he's just charged with getting upfield, going, get into your pass rush, and then react to the run if they show run. So there's a lot of technique and nuance that goes into it, a lot more than it might seem with the naked eye. And last year, Will made a lot of plays just out of hustle, grit, and determination. He got better as the year went along, but listen to Will talk about it and his understanding of just how much there is to learn.
Pass rush is so many different things, and you really don't know, how to put it all in once until you finally get a chance to talk to other pass rushers and Myles Garrett and Daniil, and working on your ankle flexion, working on your hips, all those different things just to loosen you up to be able to be more bendy around the edge, to be able to open up more moves for you. So for me, that was my biggest thing is working with my ankle mobility, working in my hips, arm strength, grip strength, all those things. So those are areas that I've really been focusing on in this OTA. I've had the privilege to, learn from Daniil and see how he works and try to some of the moves and stuff like that. And they're working because I've learned how to take care of my body and how to do those things to help me turn the corner, how to help me get off blocks, how to help me escape, how to use a long arm and things like that.
So as Will is talking about a lot of that stuff, the ankle flexion, the separation, all of those things, I got excited because it sounded very similar to what J.J. Watt told Chris Long about what it was like for him when he moved from the inside to the outside and learned in the NFL how to be a really good edge rusher. As a big guy, he was able to get really good lean, and you're going to hear him use the term shin angle, just being able to get your shins almost like you're a car on a racetrack. And the more shin angle you can get, it's like having a bigger bank on the racetrack. You can go a whole lot faster, and you get to the quarterback a whole lot faster. But I want you to really pay attention to how long JJ had been working on a lot of the other things that led him into being so good at this.
When you went outside, how did you work on finishing at the top of the rush? Because I feel like that's a skill that separates, the really good players from the Hall of Famers.
My sophomore year of high school, I started training with this guy named Brad Arnett back in Wisconsin. He trained a bunch of NFL guys for the combine. So he was working on ankle flexibility, ankle flexion, making sure that you could get into those shin angles. Since my sophomore year of high school, I have been working on that flexibility. So you compound over time. And my ankle flexibility got to be extremely good so I could turn that corner. And then in college, I had a great defensive line coach, Charlie Partridge, who taught me literally basically everything about how to play defensive line. And one of the number one things he emphasized was throwing your outside arm at the end of a rush to bring your hips around into clear and turn the corner. So I've been working on that since 2008. So I just had years and years and years of compounding reps of clearing my hips at the top of a rush, combining that with the ankle flexibility that Brad taught me. And I could, that feeling better than anything. As you turn that corner and you feel it clear, and you know that the next step you take is propelling you into the sack.
I enjoyed Chris Long's wistfulness there. But you heard those things, ankle flexion. Ankle flexion leads to the shin angle. And JJ had been working on that stuff specifically since he was a sophomore in high school. So when he started playing on the edge in the NFL, he already had that in the bank. Whereas a lot of this stuff is a relatively new concept to Will Anderson. We know that Will is going to work. You know, there's no doubt in anybody's mind that he's going to work. It's that he's got a more focused direction and a more focused item list now of things to work on. Now, one of the things they do with the Texans is during minicamp, Matt Burke, the defensive coordinator, and D'Amico Ryans, they have one action item, like one thing that they really want these defensive players to work on and get better during minicamp. This is Will on what his action item was.
Mine was just getting extension at the top of my rush, and being able to create that separation and stuff like that. And I thought I did a really good job in OTAs of really trying to perfect my craft of doing that and spending extra time on the field with Daniil, with Coach Rod, with Coach Nate, and really just learning how to keep doing that and how to better my craft. So that's what's one thing that I'll continue to work on.
And that was something that he worked on last season. He got a lot better at it. I'll show you evidence. In week 2 versus the Colts, Will was going against this right offensive tackle with the weird stance. And there were a lot of times in that game and in the first half of the season where he would get to the top of the rush and it would just become a sumo wrestling match. They would lock horns, and an offensive tackle wants that. He's willing to give some ground. If he can lock you in and get his hands locked in on your shoulder, up underneath your shoulder pads, and just hold you in place, that's exactly what they want. So Will, and getting that extension at the top is, how do you create space? How do you make it easier for yourself? Work smarter, not harder. He got better at it as the year went along. There was a play in the Denver game, which was week 13, where it looked like, I remember watching this rep, and I thought, oh, he's going to get locked in, and nope, he hit a move. And there you go. And he got a lot better with that. It's going to be even better this offseason now that he's got that bank of knowledge that he's learning, but also that bank of experience from his rookie year. To listen to Nick Caserio, the evidence is showing up in minicamp.
I mean, he's about work, he's about football, and he wants to be great. And there's plenty of things, and I think he talked the other day about this, some of the things that he's working on in the offseason. And you're actually seeing that on the football field translate over. So, everything that those players have received, they've earned it, with their performance. And, can't say enough. I mean, D'Amico's talked about Will. I mean, everybody's talked about Will. Will doesn't really like to talk about himself. And there's a selfless nature to him. So, CJ's that way as well. When your best players have that mindset, it sort of trickles down to the rest of the team.
So I feel more trust in Will Anderson to work on these things than probably any other player that I actively follow right now, because he's just that kind of a guy. So really excited for Will Anderson this season. I think he's going to build on and improve on, not just statistically, but his overall play. I predict a chance of a sophomore slump I'll put 3%, and that would be if he gets bad luck with injuries. That's it. I'm cocky. I'm a homer. I'm biased. I'm Seth Payne. Played 10 years in the NFL, 5 years for the beloved Houston Texans, the first 5 years of the franchise. Please, if you liked it, subscribe, share it. Share it on Facebook. I never go on Facebook, so I won't know you did it. It'll just be something you want to do because it's a nice thing to give your friends the knowledge of this channel. Thanks, everybody.